what a community needs to be a community is connectors. People who can connect dance, who can connect spoken word, who can connect scholarship, who can connect music, and who can connect us. And that's what these people do for us.
We the people hold the fingers together in time. That we are people when we stand in the time. This is really true for people who can forget and also we can all begin to do the
One of the things that I want to touch upon tonight is the theme on blacks in wars. We have to put everything always in historical context. We have to contextualize everything that we speak on. When we talk about black history, we have to contextualize it to the extent that we don't speak on it 1 month out of the year, but we speak on it every day. And we contextualize it, we put it in its proper historical context, and not a historical timeline that has been dictated to us by those who have controlled the literary and historical canon that dictates how our children are taught. We decide that timeline. I say all that to say that when we talk about freedom, when we talk about blacks in wars, are we talking about wars that we fight for the master? Or are we talking about wars of liberation that were necessary and have been necessary since the slave ships were launched by the Medici family and the Catholic Church, and also by the Jewish bankers in Spain. From that point forward, the globe has changed. The world has changed. Everything that we know today is a direct result of the historical conditions that were created during that period of time. As we move forward, we have to understand some things. One, our condition here in this country was a direct result of the slave trade. The slave trade just did not affect us in this country, but there was a global effect. Everything that happened here happened in South America. It happened in all of the Americas, throughout the Caribbean. Everywhere where there were native Indians, they were called Arawaks in the Caribbean. They were called a multiplicity of things here in this country, but nonetheless, they were all native to their homeland. We became part of that historical phenomenon because we became partners with that form of exploitation, and that our labor was being exported while their land was being exploited. In the 16th and the 17th centuries, you have the reaction to the global shift of European domination, where 2/3 of the arable land on this planet is now in their possession. 2/3. Natural resources, food supply, food chain, everything is in control by the European tribes. And we keep in mind now that when I use the word tribes, I don't use it loosely, because if you look at our president, certainly they're using that tribal thing against him. Okay, so we have to understand the word game and understand how it's applied. But getting back to my point, from the 16th and 17th centuries, we have wars, small wars no less, but nonetheless wars of liberation beginning to be waged. Let's start here in the Carolinas. How many of you have heard of the Stonewall Rebellion?
Yep.
The Petey River Rebellion. That is the start of what ultimately will become the first wave of what we call maroon societies. Maroon societies would become those independent African communities that fought their way to freedom, that took their freedom, and they marked out boundaries and they defended those boundaries. They allowed themselves to remain African in nature. They allowed themselves to continue to teach their African culture. Maroon societies will become instrumental in the wars of liberation that will be fought in this country and other parts of the Americas.